Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Unku Arina Kahira binti Unku Hisham. My student ID is 2019732533. I would like to thank to the panel for taking the time to listen to my digitalized proposal presentation entitled Analysis of Performance Indicator in 2019 Women's Southeast Asian Game Volleyball. This presentation will include some of introduction to the topic, problem statement, research objective, and some literature review, and I also will discuss the methodology section that will cover research design, sampling technique, instrumentation, data collection procedure, and also I will provide the result of my study and end my presentation with some of discussion. Okay, now let's move on to the introduction of this study. Some researchers stated that the attack, serve, and block has been statistically proven to be a better predictor of success than defense in the volleyball team. However, in order to support this statement, some researchers also stated that the spike plays an important role in victory. Attack, block, and all numbers of attack and service increase the probability in the winning team. However, number of all serve block attempts higher in losing team. Previous researchers also stated that the amount of all overhead attempt received and receiving forearm can decrease the possibility in the winning team. With that, the type of jump serve technical and tactical in performance indicator of volleyball game require further research. Most of researchers even until now has been conducted in relation to men's volleyball for their performance indicator. Meanwhile, there was limited research regarding women's volleyball for their performance indicator. In addition, previous researchers stated that the attack is the main indicator in victory. Sadly, there were limited studies regarding the performance indicator that contribute the most in losing team. Now, let's proceed to the research objective of this study. First is to investigate the winnings performance indicator, and the second one is to investigate the losing performance indicator, and the last one is to compare the performance indicators between winning and losing of 2019 Women's Southeast Asian Game Volleyball. Now let's moving forward to the literature review of this study. There are a total of 6 performance indicators of volleyball. The first one is spike point. Previous researchers stated that the spike points appear as one of the most important indicators in volleyball. However, some researchers stated that the success of attack after pass and after defense is the main factor between winning and losing team for all style of sets. Meanwhile, previous researchers also stated that the success of the spike increased for the losing side along with the sense of complexity. For the spike error, some researchers stated that spike error had a huge impact for men's and women's competition. However, it also was significant in differentiated teams. Winning teams score more spike and block points in the current analysis and make less spike error when playing against lower level teams. For the serve point, previous researchers stated that the service acts as an offensive weapon and reception becomes primary factor as it is the resource for counteracting the service. Meanwhile, some researchers stated that the direct service in high-performance team is a predictor of victory. However, changing the scoring system in volleyball from side-out to rally point scoring has changed the way team wins points. And for the serve error, there is no evidence that serve error can lead to the losing match on height versus height team. Meanwhile, some researchers stated that the serve error have a huge impact on low versus low team. Meanwhile, top teams have scored more serve points and made more serve errors. For the block point, previous researchers stated that the organization of the first line of defense of the opposition can increase the likelihood effective of blocking. However, previous researchers stated that the more blocks for winning teams and less blocking errors than for the losing team. For the block errors, previous researchers stated that the block errors often turn up as a major predictor in high-level team matches. However, block error happens in victory teams too. Now, let's move on to the methodology of this study. What is the research design that used in this study? The research design that has been used in this study is ex post facto. Ex post facto is a research design category in which the inquiry begins after the fact has happened without the researcher interfering with it. The data were collected using the footage that already exists, And this research design has been chosen to align with the objective of the study, which is to compare the performance indicator between winning and losing team. This study also seeks to investigate the cause and effects relationship that explain differences that already exist in the group. This study is focusing on purposive sampling. Purposive sampling, also referred to as a judgmental, selective, or subjective sampling, is the type of non-probability sampling in which the researcher rely on their own judgment when selecting population to participate in their analysis. In this study, the target population was already recognized, which is the 2019 Women's Southeast Asian Game Volleyball, which is the video will be downloaded from the YouTube. For the inclusion and exclusion criteria, for the inclusion, 4 teams participating, which is the Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, and Indonesia. The participant must be 2019 Women's Southeast Asian Game Volleyball. The total of 8 matches of 2019 Women's Southeast Asian Game Volleyball, and the video must be HD. The total length of the video must be completed. For the exclusion, video that has advertisement must be avoided, as well as the video playback during the match. For the instrumentation for this study, we will use the manual notational analysis to gather the data and the information. In this case, test-retest method has been conducted and the intra-tester reliability has been used, where it involves single tester and each matches will be watched twice to seek the reliability. The reliability for this study will be R more than 0.8 and the total error less than 10%. Therefore, we will use frequency table to analyze the data for each of the indicators. Let's proceed to the spike point. Spike point is where the point received when the ball is sent directly to the opponent's court. For the spike error, spiker sends ball forward, perform a fault, or the opponent's first line block the ball. For the serve point, the points will be received when the ball is sent directly to the opponent's court. For the serve error, the server must send the ball out to the net or cause a fault. And for the block points, the blocker directly sends the ball to the opponent's court, or the defending team cannot handle the ball. For the block error, it is the missing points after the block touch. Next is the data collection procedure. First thing first, we need to search for the video quantity, which is total of 8 matches, and then we will download the video from the YouTube. And then after that, we will segregate the winning and losing video. With that, we will do the reliability testing, and then we do the data quantification between winning and losing pool. For the data analysis, we will use the descriptive analysis for the research objective to investigate the winning and losing performance indicator of 2019 Women's Southeast Asian Game Volleyball. And for the independent sample t-test, we will use to compare the performance indicator between winning and losing of 2019 Women's Southeast Asian Game Volleyball. Therefore, IBM SPSS 25 will be used to analyze the data. The significance will be set as P less than 0.05 with alpha 0.05. Let's proceed to the result of this study. First, we need to run the normality of the data of this study. Preliminary analysis was conducted in order to determine the normality of the data. Based on the table, we can conclude that all the variables were normally distributed except for the spike error for the losing team, which the value of the Shapiro is less than 0.05. However, if the data is not normal, we can declare them through the skewness and kurtosis. Based on the table, the skewness and the kurtosis for the spike error in losing team were normal because the skewness and kurtosis in range between the kurtosis more than 3 and the skewness plus minus 1. Therefore, the result was normally distributed, and parametric analysis method with independent t-test has been conducted in this study. First is the serve points between winning and losing team. Based on the table, the result was not significant where the p-value is more than 0.05, which is 0.260, and we are failed to reject the null hypothesis. In conclusion, we can conclude that there was no significant difference in the serve points between winning and losing team in 2019 Women's Southeast Asian Game Volleyball. For the serve error between winning and losing team, based on the table, the result was not significant where the p-value is more than 0.05, which is 0.946. Therefore, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. In conclusion, we can conclude that there was no significant difference in the serve errors between winning and losing team in 2019 Women's Southeast Asian Game Volleyball. For the spike point, based on the table, the result was not significant where the p-value is more than 0.05, which is 0.409, and we have failed to reject the null hypothesis. Therefore, we can conclude that there was no significant difference in the spike points between winning and losing team in 2019 Women's Southeast Asian Games Volleyball. For the spike error between winning and losing team, based on the table, the result was significant where the p-value is less than 0.05, which is 0.022. Therefore, we are able to reject the null hypothesis. In conclusion, we can conclude that there was significant difference in the spike errors between winning and losing team in 2019 Women's Southeast Asian Games Volleyball. For the block point, based on the table, the result was significant where the p-value is less than 0.05, which is 0.002, and we are able to reject the null hypothesis. In conclusion, we can conclude that there was a significant difference in the block points between winning and losing team in 2019 Women's Southeast Asian Games Volleyball. And last, for the block error between winning and losing team, based on the table, the result was not significant where the p-value is more than 0.05, which is 0.874, and we have failed to reject the null hypothesis. Therefore, we can conclude that there was no significant difference in the block errors between winning and losing team in 2019 Women's Southeast Asian Games Volleyball. Now let's move on to the discussion of this study. First objective of this study is the serve points between winning and losing team. Current findings stated that there was no significant difference in the serve points between winning and losing. However, previous researchers stated that serve is an important factor in the winning of the volleyball game. Not only that, previous researchers also stated that the serve is important in the game because serve is the first move played when the game begins and is the first defensive and counter-attack tool. However, the positioning and movement of the defending players appear to have an effect on serving data. Let's move on to the second objective of this study, which is serve errors between winning and losing. Current findings stated that there was no significant difference in serve error between winning and losing team. However, previous researchers stated that serve by the amount of the result was very poor in direct points but higher in the teams that win. Not only that, serve error account for exactly the same amount of points taken over a fixed of time. Meanwhile, alteration of the volleyball scoring system has influenced the execution and the risk taken in the serve. Next is the spike points between winning and losing. Current findings stated that there was no significant difference in the spike point between winning and losing. However, previous researchers stated that spike points appear as one of the most significant indicators. Another researcher also stated that spike points are earned by the stronger teams and fewer spike errors are made while playing against lower level teams. Meanwhile, the effectiveness of the spike increases for the losing side along with the complexity of the set. Let's move on to the next objectives of this study, which is spike error between winning and losing. The current findings stated there was a significant difference in serve error between winning and losing team. Previous researchers stated that the spike errors also an important indicator, especially in confrontation between teams with different abilities. Another researcher stated that stronger teams make less spike errors when playing against lower level teams. However, association of spike errors with match loss was highlighted in other studies, particularly in the side-out process. Next objectives of this study is the block points between winning and losing team. Current findings stated that there was a significant difference in block points between winning and losing team. Another researcher found that the block points are also an important predictor of winning between teams with different abilities. Not only that, previous researchers also stated that the more blocks for the winning teams and less blocking errors than for the losing team. However, some researchers stated that block errors happen in victory teams. Last objectives of this study is block error between winning and losing team. Current findings stated that there was no significant difference in the block points between winning and losing team. Another researcher found that the temporal block limitation in faster attacks give advantage for the spikers who can perform better when attacking against this restricted block. Not only that, another researcher found that the increase in block errors and the block restricting attack option, higher participation does not involve greater performance. However, for the winning teams, error rates were lower than for the losing team. In conclusion, the performance indicator can enhance the performance of a team in order to perform a game and win the match. In this study, the performance indicator that had been chosen were serve point, serve error, spike error, block point, and also block error. This study has proven that scoring actions of performance indicator can influence the result of match between winning and losing team. Therefore, we can conclude that the spike error and the block points are indeed have huge impact between winning and losing team. Meanwhile, there were no significant difference between winning and losing team on serve point, serve error, spike point, and block error in 2019 Women's Southeast Asian Games Volleyball. For the recommendation of this study, future research should consider other contextual variables such as the match venue, game time, or the match status. Apart from that, performance analysts also can consider other type of jump serve that can enhance their performance in both winning and losing teams. Nonetheless, a specific training design should be built to enhance selected physical parameters such as lower limbs and upper body power production, along with technical and tactical parameters. This is the references of my study. Thank you for your time listening to my digitalized proposal presentation.